So, the PS5 is supposedly at the end of its life cycle. Well, that's what some headlines want you to think. But is it really? I've had mine for 4 years, and let me tell you, it's not going anywhere just yet. I'm also going to break down whether you should go for the Slim, hold out for the Pro, or maybe stick with the original PS5, also known as PS5 Fad, and save a few bucks. Now, let's be honest, the first few years with the PS5 have been a bit of a roller coaster. You would think launching in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic with everyone sitting home would have been perfect, and it should have been, right? But there was this little problem of actually buying one. The infamous supply shortages meant it was nearly impossible to snag a console. For many, the PS5's true launch year was 2021 or even 2022 when they finally became more available. I was lucky or unlucky, depending on how you look at it, to grab one from the first batches. And man, my electric bill lets me know about it every month. The early models are quite power hungry, especially when you compare it to something like a MacBook. And the heat, oh, the heat! My PS5 is basically a space heater in disguise. But supply issues weren't the only problem. When the PS5 launched, the selection of games was kinda meh. We had Demon's Souls remake, but still, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Astro's Playroom, and that was pretty much it in terms of exclusives. And I'm not knocking Miles Morales, but was also in PS4, so not exactly the next gen we were hoping for. For a while, most PS5 games were cross-gen, meaning they had to run on PS4 as well. Case in point, God of War Ragnarok, beautiful game, but it was built with the PS4's hardware in mind. Sure, it runs great in the PS5, but you can definitely feel that it wasn't pushing the PS5 to its limits. So yeah, backwards compatibility was definitely a selling point. I can pop in any of my old PS4 discs and they will run just fine on the PS5. Let's be real, just because it runs doesn't mean it's better. Resolution, textures, geometry, it's all exactly what you saw on your PS4 Pro. The only thing that really improves is the frame rate stability. You're getting smooth gameplay, but let's not pretend it suddenly jump into 60 FPS everywhere. It's usually locked at 30 FPS, and that's just how it is. And then there is the PS5 design, which, let's face it, still doesn't fit into any living room setup. It's like Sony sat down and said, let's make something that's impossible to ignore. I mean, it's a white spaceship with wings, or is that a color? So who knows? It's bold for sure, but kinda awkward. On the flip side though, it's an automatic conversation starter. Every time someone visits, they take one look at it and go, whoa, you've got a PS5. Even after 4 years, people still treat it like it's some elusive next-gen tech. And that's the funny thing. People still call it next gen. But is it though? Aside from the DualSense controller, which is awesome by the way, and the quick load times, I can't think of many moments in these past 4 years that scream next gen. I never had that whoa moment when I thought, this is the future of gaming. It's more like, yeah, this is how gaming should be. Not mind-blowing, just right. Like it's delivering what we expect, but nothing that feels revolutionary. Right, so when I was prepping for this video, I realized I had a ton of ideas bouncing around. Trying to keep it all organized, I went with Wondershare eDrawMind, the sponsor of today's video. And let me tell you, this is seriously one of the best mind mapping tools I've tried. With eDrawMind, I can map out my thoughts exactly how I want, block by block, layout by layout, and it's fully customizable. Which is a big deal if you're like me and want your maps to look as unique as your ideas. There are 15 layouts to pick from, so I can get that perfect look and feel every time. Or if I'm feeling a bit lazy, I can just give it a quick description and boom, the built-in AI does all the heavy lifting, making a mind map that honestly feels like it's reading my mind. But here's where it gets even cooler. I can turn my mind map into a full-on presentation with one click. eDrawMind grabs all my info, puts it in the right spots, creates an outline, and I can even choose from over 30 presentation styles. You can imagine how much time this saves, right? And if I'm mapping out a process or a workflow, I can easily convert it into tasks with their Kanban mode, which is perfect for managing steps, adding deadlines, assigning colors, basically keeping everything organized. And once I'm happy with how everything looks, I can switch to pitch mode. It's like a presentation, but interactive, which I can totally see being a game changer in business meetings or team projects where different people need to present different parts. And for the extra sauce, Plus, it has some amazing image editing tools. I'm talking background removal, texture cleanup, image compression, object removal, sharpening, you name it. It's literally an all-in-one tool for getting your ideas from brain to screen. So if you're looking to step up your productivity game, check out eDrawMind, link is in the description. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on the PS5. Overall, I've had a great time with it, but we can't just ignore the impact it's had in the gaming industry. And sadly, that's hit us, the players, right where it hurts. Let's talk about game quality. Am I the only one noticing how bad it's gotten? Every game feels like it launches in beta these days. Then we're waiting for day one patches, then more patches, and then maybe some DLC or missing content. And honestly, I blame the PS5 for that. Well, the PS5 and Xbox, because the issue spans the whole generation. It's like ever since Cyberpunk proved you could ship a game that's basically broken and still sell millions, the floodgates opened. Now, almost every game we buy is incomplete at launch. You're just waiting for those updates to make it work properly, and sometimes even the patches don't help. I mean, Star Wars Survivor, a game they hyped up for hitting 60 FPS at 4K, couldn't deliver. Despite all that horsepower in the PS5, we are still getting games that struggle to deliver what's promised. What happened to optimization? I remember popping a disc into my PS4, no updates, no hassle, and just playing. That was it. Nowadays, it feels like you have to plan to play a game. You set it up, download the updates, cross your fingers, and hope it works right. It's crazy how much things have shifted in just a few years. And we can't talk about the PS5 without talking about the games, because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. The hardware, the design, the controller, all that's cool, but it's the games that define the experience. If the games aren't good, none of the fancy tech means anything. And like I said before, the gaming experience often feels off. A lot of games are relying heavily on upscaling tech now, things like DLSS or FSR. Sounds like a win, right? The game renders at a lower resolution, then AI works its magic to upscale it and add more detail. Free performance boost, right? Well, not so fast. In a lot of cases, the base resolution is so low that when the AI fills in the details, it ends up looking blurry or just off. It's like looking at a painting through a fogged up window. You don't get that crisp, consistent image that we had in previous console generations. Now, I will give credit where it's due. When developers do get it right, and you're getting a true 4K 60 FPS experience, it's fantastic. But honestly, that level of optimization feels like a rare treat these days. Most of the time, you're dealing with these weird, reconstructed visuals that just don't feel as polished as they should. And remakes, well, I get it. Some games deserve to be brought back, reimagined, and rebuilt for modern consoles, like Silent Hill. That makes sense. But why are we getting remakes of games that still look great on PS4? I mean, The Last of Us Part 1, sure, that needed a facelift, but The Last of Us Part 2 already looks stunning on PS4. A remaster, really? Same with Horizon Zero Dawn. These games still hold up perfectly well as they are. Just feels like we're stuck in this cycle of remasters and remakes, and it's a little exhausting. Now, if you're wondering how well my PS5 has held up after 4 years, it's holding up pretty damn well. The console still looks great, though the glossy parts have picked up a few scratches. Even with all the unfinished games and half-baked releases, the actual console experience is still great. Games run smoothly, look incredible when they are not overdoing it with the upscaling. The only thing that's changed is the fan noise. I don't know if it's the apartment I live in or just age, but the fans seem to kick in more often now than they used to. But even then, I don't really notice it all that much when I'm playing on my TV. It's not like the PS4 days where it sounded like it was about to launch into orbit. And as for the DualSense controller, it's still in great shape. Nothing's broken, nothing's acting weird, which is honestly a relief. But to be fair, I'm not one of those hardcore gamers smashing out 10 hours marathons or throwing my controller at the wall when things go wrong, so that probably helps. Could use a little cleaning, standard wear and tear, but the sticks aren't drifting, which was a nightmare with the PS4. The adaptive triggers are still snappy, nothing rattles or squeaks, and battery life is solid. I usually just dock it on the charging station when I'm done, and my gaming sessions don't last long enough to fully drain the battery anyway. So with all that said, which PS5 should you buy? Right now you've got three options: Slim, Pro, and the original Fat PS5. The PS5 Slim is the smallest and most energy efficient option. It's lighter and more portable. Not that you will be lugging it around everywhere, but hey, it's nice to know. Performance-wise, it's the same as the original PS5, so you're not losing anything under the hood. The Slim comes in two versions: the fully digital one for $450 and the one with a detachable disk drive for $490. If it were me, I would go with the one that has the disk drive. $40 isn't a huge difference, and think about how much you'll save by buying used discs instead of digital downloads. Trust me, buying used games has saved me a ton of money over the years. Now, the PS5 Pro, that's where things get interesting, or maybe a little weird. Sony's pitching it as the go-to console for hardcore gamers thanks to its upgraded GPU and fancier image upscaling tech. So if you're looking to game in true 4K at 60 FPS with ray tracing, this is where the PS5 Pro shines. Here's the thing, most games look amazing on the base PS5 in performance mode at 4K, and unless you are a stickler for details, the difference isn't always that noticeable. Ray tracing is cool, sure, but not something worth extra money, especially since a lot of people won't even notice the subtle lighting improvements. And here's the fun fact, the PS5 Pro doesn't come with a disk drive. For $700, if you want to play physical games, you've got to pay extra for the disk drive. I don't know about you, but if I'm spending that much, I kinda expect all the features to be there, right? If you're just looking for gaming without breaking the bank, I'd say go for the Slim with a disk drive. Gives you all the essentials without the unnecessary extras that might not make much of a difference. But if you absolutely need the best graphics possible and don't mind going all digital, then the Pro might be your thing. The last option is getting the OG PS5 Fat, like mine. But honestly, there's no point in buying it new anymore. Prices are just all over the place. What? Like $590? No thanks. You are better off with the Slim. And only get one with a disk drive. That's the only way you're really maximizing value. It won't perform any worse than the PS5 Pro. It will cost you way less. And if you already have the PS5 Fat like I do, don't bother upgrading to the Pro. There's just no significant improvements to justify that. In the grand scheme of things, the PS5 is definitely a success. It's not the mind-blowing hit that the PS4 was, and it's not a surprise underdog like the PS3. It's just a solid, reliable console, nothing more, nothing less. I don't regret buying one for a second, and despite what some headlines say, this console is going to stay relevant for at least another 5 years. So go ahead and grab the Slim, skip the Pro, and just enjoy gaming. And if you're looking for some next level gaming experience, definitely check out the PS Portal. We've got a few videos on it already, so be sure to give those a watch. Thanks for watching, and peace out.